This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. And we got a lot going on in the world of professional bass fishing. We got a killer show today. We have the Bass Pro Tour Angler of the Year leader. I know it's shocking. Somebody's actually beating Jacob Wheeler by 1 point, albeit though. But I've really enjoyed watching him on the live coverage. Two really strong finishes. I think it's his second appearance on BTL. Jacob Wall, he's originally going to be on, and then we push him back to the first segment, and then we push him back to the second segment. We got some other things to talk about. We're also going to have Adam Bartusek from the Crappie Chronicles and Gretchen Simon from St. Jude to come on and talk. It is that time of the year, the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, the first week of May in Wabasha, Minnesota. Last year, over $800,000 raised for St. Jude. The year before that, over $1 million raised. I think they're over $7-8 million over the course of that tournament. Something that very near and dear to my heart. Obviously took an entirely different step there with Miles Berghoff family and Riley, who was at St. Jude for 7 months. Rooming with Miles and Matt Steffen this year. So we're going to have them on for a segment before we have Jacob Wall on for a segment. But last night, press release drops from Bassmaster. Birmingham, Alabama, BASS officials announced today that Matt Herron has been disqualified and fined after it was determined that he had violated rule. This is important, these rules, because we're going to actually dive into them. Rule C3, 3, practice and competition, 2, A and J, sounds like Morse code, concerning the receipt of information to gain a competitive advantage from a non-competitor. Officials said they were made aware of the rule violation on February 23rd, 2025, based on a statement made during a polygraph credibility assessment. Herron's 40th place finish at the 2025 FXR Pro Fish Bassmaster League, the St. Johns River in Palatka, Florida, has been vacated, moving Mike Iaconelli into a 50th place finish. That was surprising. And it came on the heels of the open fine for Jaden Parrish, who was deemed to have broken Rule 3, Practice and Competition 4, concerning solicitation of information of the Bassmaster rules. He was fined an undisclosed amount of money, but was able to keep his points and finish. So obviously I did not reach out to Matt Herron. Matt is currently practicing for the Bassmaster Elite Series, which kicks off on Thursday on Lake Okeechobee. But I will say that I sent an email to the Bass PR department just requesting clarification on the two different situations, how they differed, how they came out with the penalties for each one. I sent that about 5 minutes after the Matt Herron DQ came out. So I will wait. I will wait to see what the response is to that. And then at the same time, I'll probably share what I ask. I asked some pretty specific questions in there. Like I said, everything I know about this is fact that I'm going to state. But here's where it gets interesting, and one of the things that I wanted to do. So I applaud Bass. It hasn't always been this case, but Bassmaster on their website, you can go into the opens and the Elite Series information, and you can look at the rules that all Bassmaster Elite Series anglers sign when they make the Elite Series, pay their entry fees, and sign up for their entry fees. So we're going to go to those rules. But before we do, And this is the first time I think I've ever brought a bass fishing message board into BTL. But one of the members on Bass Boat Central, the BBC boards, is Josh Heron, who is Matt Heron's son. And he got on and yesterday at midnight, and he's got 306 posts. He's been a member since 2010. I'm assuming this is Josh Heron. He's an active poster. He has 306 posts on it. So I haven't confirmed with Josh that this is him, but it's him. So this is what he said at 11:50 last night. He got DQ'd, Matt Heron, because we were talking on Tuesday about how he was spending all his practicing down south. That's where he spent his practice, all of the tournament. I wasn't thinking, and made a comment. Hopefully this doesn't get one north in Deep Creek, like a tournament that my buddy had fished the previous weekend, just as general fishing comment, talking fishing. He never went there to look and went right back and put in at Astor the next day. I have fished opens and understand off limits period, but we talk fishing daily, and I just wasn't thinking when I said it. Polygraph examiner asked him if he had received any information and told them I said it on accident, but never went in that direction. 70 miles, the exact opposite, is where he spent in practice and the tournament. That flagged it as soliciting for information and DQ'd him. The rule states soliciting while trying to gain a competitive advantage, so I don't understand how mistakenly being told something and not pursuing the information or using it for any gains can fall into a disqualification. So that was a comment on a bass fishing message board from Josh Heron. So I went to the Bassmaster Elite Series Angler Participation Agreement for the 2025 season. And then based on Matt Heron's DQ rule C33, practice and competition 2A and J, and I will pull that up right now. It states, hold on, I got to get to it. Oh no, I had it. Oh, there it is, highlighted. It states once these rules are published. Oh no, that's for the open. Hold on, I got too many windows pulled up here. Okay. Rule 2 is once the Elite Series schedule is officially announced, a competitor becomes definitively aware of the tournament location, whichever date is earliest. Currently, Series anglers, regardless of date, will fall under the restrictions A through J below. So A is Elite Series anglers cannot gather waypoints for specific fishing locations, i.e. creek, river, area of the lake, or any source that is not publicly available. Anglers may participate in general discussions with fans and others about fishing, especially during boat shows, seminars, on the like. However, they must not use such conversations to intentionally gain a competitive edge from fishing in future elite events. To be safe in such situations, an angler should discontinue conversations that focus on specific locations or other information that might result in a competitive advantage. Elite anglers cannot solicit, gather, or intentionally receive any information to gain a competitive advantage for anyone other than Elite Series competitors in a tournament, and Elite Series anglers cannot buy or barter information to gain a competitive advantage. And then if you go down to J, it says, and this is important here, it says during the 28-day off-limits period, Elite Series anglers must continue to adhere to the no information rule and are prohibited from being on tournament waters. There shall be no exceptions. For a first offense of an intentional violation of the off-limits period or no information rule. This is important because this differs from the opens. For the first offense from an intentional violation of the off-limits period or no information rule at any time, the competitor shall be disqualified from that tournament and assessed up to a $10,000 fine. And then it goes on to talk about the second and third and fourth offenses. So that is why if he failed A, or if it was deemed or he admitted A and J, that is why Matt Heron was immediately DQ'd from that. Now, the question arises under his intent to gain a competitive advantage. That's where it will be interesting to see when Matt, and I'm sure he will make a statement, will come out and see what kind of his side of the story is. But there's also been, and I talked about it with Randall Tharp on yesterday's show with the Jaden Parrish fine, which was in the opens, Rule 3, practice and competition concerning solicitation of information for the Bassmaster Opens. At the bottom, it says, because the result of the violation did not impact the results of the competition, Parrish was not Parrish. I always say Paris. Parrish was not disqualified from the event. He was just fined. So you've got a situation where you know that that Bassmaster is trying to make the Opens as parallel to the Elite Series as possible. As much as I didn't like it and complained about it, that's why they made a no information rule, even though it wasn't until January for the remainder of the year to make it more congruent with the Elite Series. However, if you go into the Bassmaster Opens rules and you look at the rule that that Jaden Parrish broke, there is it does not say what the penalty is. So if you go down to 3 practice and competition, what it says for the Opens are, once these rules are published, no competitor may purchase, solicit, or barter information or locating for the catching of fish in Bassmaster Open tournament waters, whether through GPS waypoints, hiring a guide, or other means. During the off-limits period, practice and competition, anglers cannot solicit, gather, or intentionally receive information from anyone other than a competitor in the respective Bassmaster Open tournament with which they are competing. But it does not say, outside of bartering or purchasing information either from another competitor, what that penalty is. So then you go up to the potential penalties, which is then how Bassmaster would judge the penalty that Jaden Parrish will get. So remember, Elite Series states A or J, you fall under that, automatic DQ, fine of up to $10,000. Opens rules, which are available online, does not state that. So then you go up to the penalties and rules violations may include the following: reduction of practice, loss of 1 or more fish caught, loss of catch for the day, disqualification from the tournament, disqualification of future. Any different or additional penalties determined by the tournament officials include, but are not limited to, monetary fines and or reduction of Angler of the Year points. So there it is, an F. So because it was not defined in the rule that he broke, which it was deemed that he was broke, someone at Bass, I don't know who made that decision. That question is asked in an email to Bass. And like I said, I'll share that with you guys if I get it back. But it goes back to the penalties for rules violations under the F clause there, including but not limited to monetary fines. So there's the difference right now, as factually as you can get, as to why the Jaden Parrish no info rule violation was a fine. The Matt Herron rule violation was an automatic DQ. Boy, that was a thrilling and exciting first segment. We're going to take a very quick break. And when we come back, we're going to focus on something that is 100% positive. It is the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, the Break Your PB event with the Crappie Chronicles guys that is coming up on March 1st at Giesenbrauer Beer Company in New Prague, Minnesota. We also have the classic Crawfish Boil coming up the Monday before the Classic in Fort Worth. We'll talk to Gretchen Simon and Adam Bartusek briefly when we come back, and then we'll take a break. We're going to reset, and then we're going to talk fishing with BPT Angler of the Year leader after 2 events, quarter of the season already, Jacob Wall. It's BTL on a Tuesday, February 25th. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday. Let's go back to the... No, I'm just kidding. We're not. We're done with rules for the day. We're going to talk some positive stuff. We're going to bring in a couple people here to talk a little bit about St. Jude. First of all, Adam Bartusek from the Crappie Chronicles. If you haven't been following those guys over on YouTube, the Crappie Chronicles is probably... Well, I mean, it chases crappie, so I'm obviously obsessed with it. But they travel around the North America catching the biggest crappie under the ice, particularly in the metro area of St. Paul. They actually Griff, who is top 5 ice fisherman in the world, just popped like a 352 crappie through the ice. They couldn't even fit the thing through the hole. It was absolutely unbelievable. But thanks for jumping on, Bart. I know that you're a night owl, so 8:30 a.m. Central Time is awful early for you, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the sleep schedule. It's that time of year where I got to get my sleep schedule changed from like the winter editing time to we're fishing open water again and tournament practice and stuff. So trying to get the sleep schedule changed over. But yeah, man, excited to be back. Excited to be talking St. Jude, bass fishing, and spring. It's like 55 here now. It was like -20 last week. So things have changed drastically quickly here.
Yeah, it's the same way in Oklahoma. I fished at Derby this past weekend. My hands were just, frozen. Like I thought I might have to do the frostbite thing where I cut the tips of my toes and fingers off. And then, yesterday it was 75 degrees. But let's talk St. Jude. Is this the 4th annual Break Your PB fundraiser?
I think it's the 3rd. I was thinking back. When was the first year The first year you came up? I think the first year we did it was season 3, and that would have been two or three years ago.
Explain what it is, though, how it is. It's fundraising for the upcoming Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, which we're going to bring Gretchen in here in a second to talk about that. Some really cool opportunities, cool opportunities there as well. But what goes down it's in New Prague, right?
Yeah, and it's at Giesenbräu Beer Company.
I got it close to this
Brower. You you just make up this R every time and put it at the end, but it's fine. Okay, so what the Break Your PB St. Jude fundraiser is, it's something that myself and all the Crappie Chronicles guys put on. It's at Giesenbräu Beer Company in New Prague, Minnesota, Saturday, March 1st, so only a few days away. It'll be from 4 to 9. We'll be there from 4 to 10. So, but that's the official hours. There's a ton of different prizes. So this year, the biggest thing is for 75 people who come in and make the suggested $20 donation, get a free Giesenbräu and Chronicles pint glass. And then we have got a ton of prizes, anything from raffle items to we'll have some silent auction items actually this year as well. And then for people who want to buy some tickets online for a couple like experience items, so guide trips, meet with me, Griff, Waldo, cooking lesson with Pink. Those are going to be for sale actually on our merch site from, I think it's 5:30 to 7:30 on Saturday. So if you're long away and you want to get involved and donate some money and do some stuff, you can definitely do that. But yeah, so a bunch of different stuff going on. Goal this year is I think last year we doubled what we fundraised at this event. So this year again is to try to do it again, which would put us over like $10,000, which I think we can do. Weather's super great here. I think everyone's really excited to get out. And all this money we fundraise goes to Panger and Mai's fundraising pot for the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic. Like Matt's talked about before, kind of a unique thing with this 2-day event is the total amount you fundraise is your boat number on day one. And then if you're in the top 10 fundraisers, your boat number is locked for days 1 and 2. So on day 2, you get to spot 11, and from there down, they go by what weight you brought in on day 1. But yeah, on day 2, it's still, I mean, you could have brought in 2 fish for 3 pounds. And if you fundraised 4th, you're going 4th. So that's kind of a nice, cool thing they do that's unique with this charity tournament. But yeah, goal. I know Matt and I are trying to get up to $30,000 again, somehow get to 50, but we're going to try to get to 30 again. Hopefully get us in that top 10 and get to do it.
Also, you just dropped your ice fishing saves lives t-shirt. I'm a little behind the 8 ball. I need to make a call and get the bass fishing saves lives t-shirt dialed in. But are those available for purchase now as well?
Yes. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. There's so much going on. But yeah,
people purchase those.
Yeah, Matt's got the Bass Fishing Saves Lives t-shirts. We got the Ice Fishing Saves Lives t-shirts. If you go to the Crappie Chronicles merch website, if you just Google it, it'll pop up right away. Go there, and then they're pre-order. So right now they're in the pre-order phase. I believe it's next Friday, which is what? That's March. Next Friday, March 7th is the last day they'll be available for pre-order. So if you snag one of those, they'll get shipped out after that.
Yeah,
so
100% of the profits for that go to directly to St. Jude. This is one of our major things. So I really like how you did that St. Jude logo with the Crappie Chronicles logo on the back. I'm probably going to do the same thing on mine, but with the BTL. So an opportunity to support both and get some cool t-shirts like through that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I appreciate it, Bart. Thank you for jumping on. I got Gretchen down here. She was worried she wasn't going to make it with the traffic. That's why I like.
Do I get to talk to Gretchen too, or am I leaving?
No, you can talk to Gretchen too. Okay, oh no, perfect. Why can I see her, but then she's frozen?
I don't know. You should tell her to leave and come back. That's probably what it is.
I bet she might have gotten a call on it. I'll kick her out of the studio, and then I'll tell her to jump back on. While we're doing that, one of the things that I do want to highlight, and I'll throw this up, is the Zaldanes are doing a really cool event benefiting both St. Jude and Cook's Children's Hospital, which is located there in Fort Worth. If you are in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area within 3 hours on Monday, March 17th, it's at Whiskey Ranch. You have to have tickets for this event. So you have to go down and buy tickets at the door. The proceeds go to St. Jude and Cook's Children. It's $150 to get in. That includes your adult beverages. That includes your crawfish for the crawfish boil. All of the 2025 classic competitors will be there. A lot of support there. Gilchrist Automotive, where I got my truck, big supporters of that. A lot of industry support for that too. So if you have more questions about that, there's a way that you can email on that website, or you can shoot me a DM on my Instagram at Matt Pangrak. And now I think we have there you are. How are you doing, Gretchen?
Thanks. I was like totally ready for this, and all of a sudden my internet stopped working, and I'm at the office, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? So sorry.
Good to go. You made it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Bart and I were just talking about the Giesenbrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. No R at the end.
Giesenbrow.
Yes, I heard all that. I'll see you there.
Gretchen will be there. And then you've also been, I know you've been down in Fort Worth working on it, this classic crawfish boil benefiting St. Jude and Cook's Children, which is now at Texas Whiskey Ranch. What can you tell us about that event and how people can get involved with that in person? And it sounds like a heck of an evening.
Yeah, no, super excited. It's been really, really fun to work with Trait in bringing this to life. There's been some last minute changes with the venue and all of the things, but I really think it's coming together and I think it's going to be a super awesome night. I see that you've got the website pulled up, but yeah, it's just going to be a great night supporting both St. Jude and then Cook Children's. They're in, I think, Dallas or Fort Worth. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, we're just going to have a fun night. Like, Trait is so excited about the Crawfish boil. There's going to be the Like Combs cover or tribute band, and you're just going to be able to get back to St. Jude and just a really casual, fun night to kick off Classic Week.
Yeah, and get to hang out with all the guys. It's kind of like their
Yes.
last evening before Classic Week starts with all the media and all of that. Also, I had pulled up the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic website. Some massive news there. I actually showed it. I scrolled down to the bottom and I didn't want to give it away, but I see a boat and motor sponsor down there, Gretchen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So it's been a really exciting year. So Katie and I, who you guys both know very well, we've been working really, really hard since last year's tournament when Yamaha came on board. The first thing we told them, we were like, we really want a boat. And so they actually facilitated the conversation with Skeeter. They brought Skeeter in and we, as a result, have a boat to give away, which is really exciting. For the first time ever in this tournament, we do have a boat. So we will be giving away a 2025 Skeeter ZX200 fully loaded, which is just, I think, a huge win for this tournament. And as a result, we've seen a huge uptick in our registration numbers super early. So yesterday we actually hit 90 boats. The highest boat count we've ever fished this tournament with is 92, and that was in 2018. And so I'm feeling very excited that we may have the highest boat count year, but also hopefully another record-breaking fundraising year. That's my goal. So that's
now that boat is a giveaway boat item, not for the tournament winner. The tournament winner still receives a $25,000 cash, but if you are registered in this tournament and fundraise a $5,000 minimum, you are eligible for the Skeeter Yamaha giveaway. So even if you suck on the river and think, looks like you have a 1 in 100 chance of going home with a boat.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that this tournament is really hard to win. I mean, you guys have done it, so you know. But we also wanted this boat to be an opportunity for new teams to join us. Adam always says, we just got to get people there to see what it's all about, and then they tend to stay with us. And so that was part of the strategy behind this boat. And so yes, it's a $5,000 basically to qualify. Yes, you don't have to catch a fish. You don't have to do anything. It's really strictly tied to fundraising, which is really exciting.
Bart, you fished this tournament for a number of years. Is this going to be is this a game changer with the boat and already having 90 boats in this field with 100 boat max, only 10 to go?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was texting Gretchen this week. I would honestly be surprised if this tournament isn't filled by Friday. So I think by Friday or sometime next week it'll be filled. I think this is a great year for people to come up if they want to go to it or if they want to fish it, because it's just such a great event. And having that boat there, it's just, like we said, it's another pull factor just to get people involved and get in. I mean, Matt, can you think of anywhere across the country where you have a better opportunity to win a boat?
No.
Like actually statistically a better opportunity to win a boat. And all you have to do is fundraise $5,000 for charity. And then you get to just show up and have a good weekend and have fun. And I think that's kind of one of the nice things about this tournament is, we've gotten to experience both sides of it now, where one year, like last year, we win it and you're in the heat of it and you're like, oh my gosh, we might win it. So you get that adrenaline going on. But then the other side of it where I think it was 2 years ago where we kind of had a bad day one, and then we just go out fishing, enjoy the banquet, and you still come in and you're like, that was a really good weekend. And I think that's very unique for most people who are in the bass fishing tournament crowd. Is normally if you suck, you hate it and you go home. Whereas with this, if you suck, you're like, well, I still had a great time. I saw all my friends. We raised all this money. It's a very unique event. So I just really encourage people to get involved, and there's only 10 spots left. So if you've been debating it, you need to make a decision here in the next day or two, because it will fill.
I have
And
the direct link on the website and the YouTube. If you do it, Matt Steffens fishing it, Miles Berghoff, myself, Adam, Frank Scalish Jr., Juice from Juice's Jigs, as well as the 60 to 70 locals. A lot of them, I'd say there's 40 or 50 guys that have been doing this for over 10 years, and probably a quarter of the field that have fished every single one of these things dating all the way back to it. So part of the uniqueness, part of the beauty of this is the small town charm, and so many of these guys have watched this thing grow into the $7+ million that has been raised for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital along the way. Sorry, I mean to cut you off there, Gretchen.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, as Adam was talking about the tournament, just for context, last year we fished with, I think it was 77 boats all in at the end of the day. We didn't hit 70 boats registered until April. So that's how far ahead we are with the excitement, I think, of this boat. People are registering earlier, but we've also got about 20 new teams too. So if you're a new team, you're not alone in this. We've got a lot of new teams this year too. So we're just really excited to have everybody in Wabasha.
Yeah, and I think the important thing for if anybody's debating registering and they're gonna, or say you're one of the new teams listening, and you're intimidated by or trying to figure out how to do the fundraising, you can always reach out to me, reach out to Gretchen. Like when I first started fishing this tournament, I reached out to Gretchen and Katie because I mean, I had no idea how I was going to fundraise this money, and they're great resources. Their jobs are literally to help you try to figure out how to fundraise the money and help St. Jude. So they're there for you. They've seen a bunch of different ways people fundraise money, how people fundraise $100,000. And yeah, once you start, it just kind of snowballs year after year. So that's what we've seen anyway, too.
There it is. I'm going to let you guys go unless there's anything else you want to get in. And then there's links to the classic crawfish boil. I'll put the link to Adam for the Giesenbrow beer, the Break Your PB event. If you're up in Minnesota, if you're in Fort Worth, all sorts of opportunities with that. And then after I let you guys go, I will run a 4-minute highlight of the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic from this past year. And if you guys have any interest, I know I talked to at least 2 teams last year that were like, man, we have no idea what we're doing on the river. We heard about it on BTO. We jumped into it, and now it's an annual trip for us, and would love to hear and see more. Let's get like 6 or 7 of those last 10 BTL guys to come on your trip. Great week of fishing. You can come practice for a day, for 2 days, whatever you want to do, but it's a full weekend, and I promise you won't be disappointed even if you double zero, or if you go out and win 25 grand, or if you double zero and win a boat.
Cool.
100%.
Love it.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Adam, Gretchen, my StreamYard was being a little bit sticky here, so I'm going to resend this, share screen. I want to run the Dick Hiley Bass Classic video from this year, take a break, and then come back. We're all in on the fishing with Jacob Wall, who's been patiently waiting in the tackle room. He's got probably 300 rods up on the ceiling. I'll have to ask him about that. The guys I think who have figured out how to store all their extra rods. Like mine are in the corner of the garage, and then they slide, and then they become an absolute disaster. He looks like he's organized, like Matt Steffen level organization, Edwin Evers levels organization. We'll see. But this is a highlight of the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic. For more information, links in the description.
You know, fishing in this event it's a fun time. It's great to see everybody, but really it's about giving hope for these kids. You know,
a horrible problem like childhood cancer can bring us all together. And for 2 days, once a year, we come together in support of St. Jude. What you do for the kids of St. Jude, like I said, is phenomenal and rare. The competitive spirit that you guys have on the water carries over into the work you do for this tournament for St. Jude. I believe that competitive spirit, combined with your love for this mission, has made this tournament what it is today.
I started out with fishing tournaments in Minnesota, and Dick Hiley was one of the guys that I roomed with. And he died from cancer
He was an awesome man. He had a heart for St. Jude's. It meant everything to him. Fundraising, he was one of the first guys to kind of push that. But he was also a competitor, very well-to-do businessman. But he allowed a group of anglers to get together to create what it is today. It changes people's lives, and these guys are making a big part of that, supporting St. Jude's, and I'm very glad to be a part of that.
This event it's about so much more than fishing. I mean, all of us here are very serious bass anglers and want to do well and all those good things, but it's about so much more. I mean, this weekend it's about raising money for people that are in, the worst of times.
There's no other bass tournament in the country of the United States of America that can compete with the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic. It's wall-to-wall, treetop tall, homie.
As Megan said, 1 in 5 kids do not survive childhood cancer, and my son is that one. And let me just tell you that without what you guys are doing here, we would not have gotten the 5.5 years that we got, that we are so thankful for. And what you guys do and what it means to families like mine, you just can't understand. And I want you all to know that you are St. Jude. And for that, I thank you.
We're part of a family here at St. Jude's. This year, I think, is $850,000. Amazing. A group of redneck fishermen, 75 teams getting together to do this. It's unbelievable.
And due in part to research and treatments developed at St. Jude, overall survival cancer rates have risen to more than 80%. And today, thanks to the generosity of each of you and this tournament, 4 out of 5 kids with cancer in this country will survive.
We've all come together this weekend for our shared love of fishing and because we wholeheartedly believe in this mission and the work being done at St. Jude. But you all also know that our work is not done. Somewhere today, a family heard the words, "Your child has cancer," for the first time. And today, a family at St. Jude walked through the doors for the first time. We've come so far in the fight against childhood cancer, but there's still so much work left to do to see a world free of these terrible diseases. But being here this weekend, you all are part of a really, really special story. It's the story that's finding cures and saving children, and a story that's going to put an end to childhood cancer one day.
All right, there you go. BTL. We'll be back with Jacob Wall right after this. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's 2 best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made. This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done. Check them out at denalifishing.com.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
All right, welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. Wild start to the show, talking all things. And originally, I was trying to get Jacob Wall on after the first event. He's like, man, I'm doing some Red Crest PR. And then I hit him up. And now you're on BTL. Thanks for hanging around. I know it was originally 8:30, and then I had to stack a couple things on top of it. But, I mean, that's like kind of bass fishing. Like it's never what you actually expect it is when you launch the boat. Very rarely, right, Jacob?
Oh yeah, always ready for adversity out there. I mean, some of my best tournaments have been with no big motor and all that stuff. So definitely get used to dealing with things, changing.
Right off the rip, anything in bass fishing is good when you have a 1 next to it. I don't care whether it's the first, the second, the third, the fourth, or the last tournament, especially in the field that you're competing against. And after a stop in Florida and a stop in Texas, you find yourself with a 1-point lead over Jacob Wheeler on the back of 2 top 10s and $57,000 in earnings to start the 2025 Bass Pro Tour season. Probably couldn't ask for much more, could you?
I mean, to say that I want more would be sounding kind of greedy, but in that first tournament, I really wanted to win. I know that sounds like, not grateful for the third place, but I haven't felt like I could win an event like that in quite a long time. And that event, I felt like I didn't really necessarily let it slip through my fingers, but that's kind of how it feels just because, I ended up in third. I was only like really 1 or 2 scoreable bites out of, of the win. And I had those bites. I mean, everyone in the top 10 probably had bites to do a little bit better. So my whole theory is it's like if everybody catches what they miss or what they lose, it'll all probably end up similar anyways. But that first tournament of the season on Conroe, I definitely wanted that win really, really, really bad. Yeah, there's some pictures from it. Those photographers do such a good job. They do a killer job staying away from us, not getting in our space, but getting those awesome, photos too. But yeah, no, I definitely wanted that win on that first one. Would have loved that, but absolutely thrilled with the start. I mean, sitting atop of of Jacob Wheeler right now is pretty surreal.
It is one of the things that I enjoyed on Conroe. Obviously, you've got your minnow game dialed in, but when you did not have the, what are they calling it? The power hour or the magical mystery box? What is it? What is it called?
I don't know. Your scoping period, your forward-facing period, or something.
Drew Gill calls it something very Drew Gillish. I can't remember what he calls it. Anyway,
your eyes beneath or something. Your eyes below. I don't know.
Like the supercharged power period.
Yeah.
But I noticed one thing. So when you went up in the grass and you put a moving bait in your hand, a bladed jig, a trap, that thing, like, I mean, I'll be honest, like you couldn't stop talking and you were really jacked up and it seemed like you were pumped to get up there and tickle some shallow grass with a moving bait and really dial in the cast instead of being out there minnowing. I thought that was interesting to watch how pumped you were to get to the period where you knew you probably weren't going to do as much damage, but you seemed really comfortable up there for a younger guy who, if you're not very seasoned, might get categorized into the offshore spinning rod shaking category.
Yeah, I've been kind of, lumped into that category, and rightfully so. I mean, I'm pretty confident with it, and I feel pretty comfortable using it. I mean, it's definitely something that I, gravitate towards using because I think it's such a good information gathering tool. I mean, there's a lot of things that Drew says that are above my head, but
it's a par for the course.
Yeah, I think so. But a lot of the things he says are very true. A lot of the things about information gathering, I think that that's something that you can't do without that technology. So it's something that I've really embraced and learned how to embrace. But my roots are from fishing the bank, fishing off of a float tube, fishing back home in Oregon, just however I can get out there. And so that like real specific stuff up shallow, getting the feel for it. I grew up walking the banks of ponds, throwing chatterbaits and swim jigs and flipping jigs and stuff. So that whole like nuance of standing or like getting in one little zone and kind of learning that angle, learning that, that retrieve speed, getting that all kind of tuned in, like that's something that I grew up doing. And so for me, it felt good to finally have a tournament where I didn't feel like I had to stare at that screen all day just to hang, just to hang in the group. And that's what it's been in the past when we've had those tournaments where it's dominated by suspending bait chasers. Those tournaments have been absolutely painful to compete in, to be honest with you, because if you're not doing that all day, you get left in the dust. And man, it's exhausting. I mean, that first period of the day at Conroe was like, oh my gosh. I mean, the amount of energy and effort that I put in that period is insane. You're constantly thinking, you're trying to retie, you're trying to hit every fish on the mark, you're trying to, I mean, it's just like nonstop. You're trying to get them in the boat, you got to unhook them, you got to not get a penalty. It's just like go nonstop. And so when I could get up there shallow, I felt like I could like kind of get in my groove, get in my rhythm, and know that, things would slow down, and like I could kind of expect that. And kind of like the 15-minute breaks, everybody in the field has to take a 15-minute break when you're taking it. Granted, we don't know when they're using forward facing or not, but we know that they can only use it for one of the 3 periods. So, even if they haven't used it, they can't. I just knew I had to hit a certain mark in that period at Conroe. I was like, I need to hit 40 to 60 pounds. That was my mark, 40 to 60 pounds in that scope period or that forward face period. And so I knew if I could hit that mark, then the rest of the day, it was just up to me making the right decisions. And if I did that, then I'd have a chance to win. So, I mean, that's what I did. And I almost executed. I was super close.
Back in my younger days when I didn't have as much going on in my life outside of fishing, talking fishing, going fishing, and analyze fishing, there was a tournament. There was a tournament where it was a smallmouth tournament, and it seemed like Wheeler he was able to catch, weigh, release, and get his bait back way quicker than everyone else. So I took a stopwatch to the live stuff, and I started recording. I started stopwatching how long the average guy took from the time he hooked a fish, landed it, weighed it, released it, fixed his bait, and made another cast. And I'm not kidding, Jacob. Wheeler was like 30 to 40 seconds faster than anyone else. So then you extrapolate that over a 25 to 40 fish period, and you find out that he's actually fishing 20 to 30 minutes longer, extending his period just based on efficiency, based on the pound test he was using, how fast he was reeling it in, his efficiency, lack of movement, everything. You'd watch guys that would stand around, or they'd rummage around for another bait, or they'd sit there and mess with stuff, and it wasn't boom, boom, boom. And you talk about hitting that weight in that period. It's interesting, and I saw that with what Drew Gill calls the turbo period. Is these guys who knew what it is, like it is all about efficiency. It was like watching, to me, that first period on Conroe was like watching a pit stop in NASCAR, where the guys who knew what it was, knew what they had to do, knew that an extra 10 casts in that 2.5 hour period could mean the difference between 6 pounds, and there was zero wasted motion. it was wild to watch. But I think it all goes back, and I think as this develops, do you get the feeling like guys will understand the importance of efficiency and when to be where, and this turbo period will kind of evolve? I mean, it's only 2 tournaments in now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for every event, obviously, based on how the fish are, positioned and what they're doing. But man, if we have any kind of events like that where they're suspended and they're pretty easy to see, and anytime they're floating like that, I personally think they're pretty easy to target. Obviously, getting them to bite's a challenging part. Getting the bait in front of the fish. I talked about that a lot on live. Like actually getting it to them, not like around them. You have to get it on the fish. I mean, anybody that uses forward facing understands that, and so that's just another part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that you're going to see a lot of guys start to realize the strategy, and if they don't, I think they're going to get, to be completely honest with you, I think they're going to get left behind. Yeah, I think they're going to get left behind. I mean, there's a lot of strategy involved in this format this year, and I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. I love that's something that I get excited about. In the evening, I'm like rigging my tackle on the boat. Like I'm one of those guys that sits out there like way longer than I probably should. Got way too many rods laid out. I'm like messing around with tackle until like 9:30 every night. Michaela's like, "Are you gonna come inside and sleep? Like you're freaking tired." And I'm like, "No, I gotta rig up this one more rod. Hold on." So like for me, like that strategy side of it, I really enjoy. Like, thinking about it the night before, trying to get everything kind of prepped, having all that tackle in the rod locker ready to go, making sure that it's all like kind of strategized in my mind to where it's like not set in stone by any means, because that's a terrible approach to a tournament, but at least having like, options and kind of having like a fluidity kind of, approach in your rod locker, being able to have multiple different weights of the bait that it is that you're throwing. That way you can adjust if you need to go shallower, if you need to go deeper, or, adjusting your line size or whatever it is, trying to find the nuances, trying to dial those things in, all come down to the strategy. And obviously that forward facing period is, it's so important. If there's an event where it's going to play, you better find the fish and utilize it for one period of the day, because if you don't, I don't think you can win off of just one population of fish. I think you really need to try to utilize multiple populations of fish, and that's what I like about the forward facing, is that I feel like I can target a completely different population of fish with that, and then when I turn it off, I know I can go target other populations of fish. And if I can dial that in both throughout the year, and I can find fish to be caught with forward and fish to be caught without, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do in every event. That's what I did at Conroe. That's what I did at Harris. And that's, ultimately like what I think I need to try to do at every event, hit multiple populations of fish like that. And that's part of the strategy.
You mentioned multiple populations of fish. So let's use Conroe for an example. I think I experienced this a lot on Oklahoma lakes. It just left open on Sam Rayburn. In your opinion, so like there's obviously an area where it was going down, where the fish were floating. There was a population of fish. It was relating to bait fish. So like just use Lake Conroe, for example.
Okay.
I think a lot of people struggle with this. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that was the biggest, most active population of offshore minnow fish on that lake? Or were there others that weren't exploited or weren't touched or weren't found? Or is it like that population and, there's going to be 15 or 20 of you guys that are in the same general area kind of doing the same thing? Or are there other populations in that kind of scenario? You see what I'm saying? Like, does it make sense? Like if I'm a tournament angler, if there's people that are watching that know, okay, I know there's fish floating here, but it's an obvious school. Is that happening in other parts of the lake? Area. Yeah. Other winning areas and stuff. Like, does it work the same thing? Like, you can power fish in multiple areas and win? Or is it like, what are you finding the more you get into this? Like, was that the deal? That was the spot. There was nowhere else on the lake that could do that, and it didn't make sense to even go look.
So from what I noticed immediately when I dumped the boat in Conroe is that Caney Creek that we fished, where the majority of the field fished, was the one creek that had the vast majority of the vegetation, submergent vegetation. So for me, like immediately I was gravitated towards that, because I was like, okay, bait fish, bass, they all love this stuff. Everything uses this grass. Everything's trying to hide in here. If there's not grass in other places, then this creek here has got to have the most bait, got to have the most bass. I was very, very simple with my breakdown. You know, it was like, okay, hey, there's grass. Typically, grass holds more bait. Typically, it holds more bass. This is going to be my starting place. But with that being said, yeah, look how close I was to Coop in that picture.
Yeah.
We were so locked in, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, there were so many fish floating around and moving around that, like, I could pass Coop like that. Like, that photo is a little deceiving. We were maybe 15, 20 feet apart, which is still really close. But, you know, we were able to go back and forth with each other. And Coop is awesome, dude. We work so well together. Like, I'm going to get back on topic here, but we never really
Winner
interfered.
Justin Cooper there. If you're listening to the MP3, I'm showing pictures of Justin Cooper and Jake floating around very close to each other and in a very friendly manner, though.
Yeah, I mean, we got along the whole time. We had a great time. His family was actually cheering me on when I was catching fish, so we were both getting cheered on by his family out there, which was really cool. And I think everybody kind of realized that, hey, this isn't going to be won in the first period, so we might as well all get along out here and try to make the most out of it. But to get back to your question, I think, Matt, that you could catch bass floating around the entirety of that lake if you found the right areas. It was all about finding like little drains and little areas that kind of led up into like flatter zones. I found one little place up the river that I never even put a rod on or cast it on in the tournament that I found in practice that was actually pretty good. Like, if I was fishing a 5-fish tournament, I would have gone up there. Like, the caliber of fish that I caught floating was better. Like, I was catching more like 2.5 to 3.5s, but like, I just wasn't getting as many bites and I wasn't seeing as many fish, and the water had a little bit more color to it. I think because there was no grass in that zone. And so for me, I felt like it was harder for me to be as efficient because I couldn't, you know, it's harder to get that bait in front of those fish and get them to see it because of the water clarity, for one. And two, there was less fish to throw at. So your opportunities to do that went down. So, I mean, I think there were places that you could potentially, like, if you had it all to yourself and the conditions were right and you were dialed in, like, I think you could make it work in other places. And I think a guy could have done very well. I know a few guys did. I know Colby Miller. I don't know the details of his whole tournament, but I'm pretty sure there were some guys that caught some fish outside of Caney. I'm not sure if they were scoping them or just casting them, but from what I saw and what I've kind of seen in the first couple events, there's a lot of fish that these guys don't find. And I'm one of them. You know, there's a lot of fish in these events that don't get found. You know, even up until the final day at Harris, like, I was locating new stuff throughout that whole tournament. And the same with Conroe. I located, you know, found fish, found how they were kind of positioning and moving. And so I truly think that there's kind of always a little sneaky hidden something, even in the middle of a tournament. There's something sneaky a lot of times, you know, and it may not be the best for giant bass, you know, for a 5-fish tournament, but there's like a little wad of, you know, scorables over here that you may be able to slide over and catch 4 or 5 off of that nobody touched, you know, and they're biters. You know, you go up there and you catch them every cast for 4 casts and then they're done. You know, I think there's always that kind of a thing to be found. It's just a matter of looking in the right places.
All right. You mentioned Oregon. Where you're from. I'm thinking how far is that? Wasn't Jay Yellis original Oregonian? Like, how far from Oregon where Jay Yellis cut his teeth?
So Jay is originally from Corvallis area. I think Albany, Corvallis kind of area, which is a little bit further north from me. He's about 2.5 hours north of where I grew up. So I grew up in Jacksonville, Oregon, which is just outside of Medford on I-5. So I-5 kind of goes all the way through Oregon down into California. It's a big, you know, highway. So that kind of connects everything. And so I lived off of that in Jacksonville and then went to college at U of O. So I lived in Eugene. So Jay, he was right around me. I actually remember when I was probably 13, 14, I think I want to say, my dad contacted Jay and we got to talking with Jay. And we actually met, I think it was at Subway, if I remember correctly, for lunch with Jay in Central Point, Oregon, which is a tiny little town. And we had lunch with Jay and talked to Jay. And I remember we asked him I don't remember, I think I was going to Lake Murray gosh, this was a long time ago. This must have been 2007. So how old was I? If it was 2007, 2008, how old was I? I would have been 19. I would have been 14. Yeah, 13, 14. So I was right. And yeah, anyway, I was talking to him. I was going to a college or a high school national championship. Maybe it was a junior national championship. It had to have been junior on Lake Murray. And I won't forget Jay telling me to throw a DD22 in chartreuse chartreuse blueback.
That's as old school as it gets.
Oh, so anyway, that's yeah, Jay and I are from the same original, state, which is really cool. I mean, Jay's a big time drift boat, steelhead, salmon. He loves that kind of stuff, and that was the kind of stuff growing up that I could.
So how did
do
you
without.
peel off into the world of bass fishing then? Because listen, like I've done like the steelhead, the Alaska thing. Like once you're a steelheader, it's kind of like the hardcore, like it's real easy to go down the steelhead wormhole, and then all of a sudden you're an elitist and you start calling bass ditch pickles, and there's just no coming back from it. So how did you get out of the salmon and trout arena and into the bass fishing thing? I would imagine it wasn't hugely popular where you grew up.
Yeah, so to kick the salmonoid stigma, that's what we're gonna call it.
Am I wrong, Jacob?
No, the salmonoid stigma. That's what we're calling it. I mean,
oh, dude,
no,
you should try steelhead fishing on the Anchor River with a spinning reel and see what kind of looks you get. You think the bass fishermen are bad in tournaments?
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't even have to have it upside down. You just need to have it in your hand. And
oh yeah, you just show up with a 10-foot and a cork and a steelhead fly, and I mean, you're afraid someone's gonna shoot you.
Yeah, no, those fly fishermen, they're pretty elitist. That's how what I grew up around was a lot of fly fishing, a lot of salmon steelhead, shoulder to shoulder on the banks of the rivers. And man, the one thing I did not like about salmon and steelhead fishing from the very get was that it was so slow. And a lot of that had to do with where I grew up. The runs of the fish started to get really, really bad, like around the time frame of when I started like getting old enough to go out and do that kind of stuff with my dad. Like I'd go hang with him and he'd go fish, but it wasn't like I was really involved. When I started getting more involved, 12, 13, that age, like it wasn't very good. The fishing was kind of crappy. The salmon runs were really bad. So like you'd go out fishing all day and maybe get like 1 or 2 bites. And I was like, man, this sucks. Like, this is boring. This is really boring. I was like, I don't want to do this. And, I'm more interested in turning over the rocks and finding all the little bugs and stuff than I was trying to catch a fish that I couldn't catch in 8 hours. I was like, this isn't that much fun. So anyway, that's what kind of got me into bass fishing. I realized pretty early on that bass were pretty aggressive. And if you found them and you got around bass, they could, you could catch 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them in a day, and maybe even more if you had a good day. So like, to me, that was exciting. They were really aggressive. They'd bite on top water. You can't catch a steelhead. I mean, you catch them on a fly, on dry fly or something, but I mean, come on, salmon's like, he comes up for a fly and he's like, it goes down, doesn't even make a noise. A bass comes up for a top water, just boom, it's like, what's more exciting? Like, come on now. Like, I'd rather watch a bass, do a backflip for a popper than a steelhead come up and go down,
Yeah, that's
so anyway.
fair. So
no, but to branch out of that was really, really hard. I mean, it was, I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you.
So you end up around Guntersville. Actually did a documentary on guys that moved from other parts of the country to Guntersville. Did you have options? Like, did you move to New Hope, which is around Lake Guntersville, strictly for the fishing? Like, did you look at Texas, like the Fork area? Did you look at the East Texas, Louisiana? Did you look at the Carolinas? Like, how did you settle on Guntersville, a place where so many West Coast anglers have kind of traveled to? Obviously, top of the list right there is Justin Lucas. Aaron Martins did the same thing when he moved to Leeds. Cody Meyer, is Cody in Alabama now?
No, I don't think so.
No, he stayed out west. Who else was? Andrew Loberg. He moved from Cal. That was after, but anyway, there's a bunch of them. How'd you settle on Guntersville? And was that literally just a, hey, I want to do this after the 2019 season, and pack your stuff up and head to the land of the tide after getting all that free Nike stuff at Oregon?
Yeah, no, it was kind of it was a big move. I mean, that that was honestly one of the hardest things to do in this whole thing. I mean, to this whole professional bass fishing, I don't know, stunt that I've been on for 7 years, going on 7 years now, has been very challenging. I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but moving out here was probably one of the hardest. Michelle's a wife of Jason, who's one of my tournament partner, who he and I fish a lot of team tournaments locally. So they're great people. But anyway, what was I saying? I was talking about moving out here.
The move. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was difficult. My wife and I now, we were only dating for a year, and I asked her, I was like, "Hey, do you want to move to Alabama with me?"
she's
like,
a West Coast girl too, like Oregon.
Yeah, she's from Northern California, and she's like,
"Oh
what?"
my gosh.
She's like, "Alabama? Why are we moving to Alabama? Why is that even a thought?" I'm like, "Well, I qualified for this thing called the FLW Tour, and I don't think we can afford to do that living out here." And my parents, they've always been super supportive. I couldn't have done this without their support from the very beginning. And I've been very fortunate to find some success since then. So I've been fortunate enough to kind of not need their help as much. But to get started, I couldn't have been here without them. So that was a big attribute to me being able to make the move. But I did do a lot of it on my own. I've been very prideful in trying to do it on my own. That's something that I've always taken pride in, and my parents would attest to that as well. And anyway, Michaela and I moved to North Alabama. I went to the Toyota Championship out there on Guntersville. It was the Costa Series Championship actually in what would that have been? 2018, I think, or 18 or 19.
That would have been 19. Yeah, it would have been 18.
18. Because I fished the first FLW tour year in 19. And I liked the area. My dad and I stuck around. We actually towed what was it? It was a 1995 Nitro, 20-foot Nitro, DC 2000 is what it was.
That was the Derby rig.
Yes, dude. That's what I qualified out of, a DC 2000 1995 Nitro. And I mean, I was competing against guys that had this was not 1995. I was born in 1994. If I started using it in 1995 when it was new, I would have been one. So I used that 95 boat, and that's what I qualified out of. And so my dad and I towed that out. I fished the Coastal Championship on Guntersville out of it, ended up making money, cutting a check, and we ended up leaving the boat in Guntersville at Duckett Marine. Thanks to them for helping us out, leaving it there. And we ended up driving back with just a truck. Then my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, Michaela, and I moved out, bought a boat, and then I started my career out of Alabama. And I did that all in like a 2.5, 3 month span from us traveling back and then coming back and moving. So it was very, very, very crazy at the beginning, man. I'm very fortunate to be where I am now, being able to kind of have a settled in spot. You can see how you were talking about it earlier.
Yeah. It's dialed in, man.
Yeah, it feels good now. It was hectic there for a while though.
Mentioned sponsors and things. You said a phrase earlier and I wrote a note down. You said, "I'm loving it." And then I also noticed you got the golden arches on the rig. What's the story behind the McDonald's logo on the boat?
Yeah, so my mom, her cousin, he owns a ton of McDonald's, and his son actually took over the business, the majority of the business. My mom's cousin, he's getting kind of older. And so his son took over the business, and I reached out a few years back and kind of explained to him what it was that I did and who I was. And I hadn't even met this guy before. So, I mean, even though he was quote unquote, kind of family, related, that's the only reason I had the contact, but I didn't know who he was. And so I ended up reaching out to the Retzer family and Mike Retzer. And I ended up reaching out to Mike and talking to him, telling him who I was, and just being like, "Hey man, I'm trying to pursue my dream here, and just trying to ride this wave and trying to continue. Is there any possibility to work something out?" And he was all about it. He wanted to support me because I was doing what it was that I loved and what I wanted to do, and he loved that. He liked that. So I try to keep him updated. I send him photos and send him placements and send him the standings and all that stuff, and keep him up to speed with everything that's going on. And he just does it just because he loves to support who it is that I am and what it is that I do. And They own a large quantity of McDonald's. They don't own the entirety of the company or anything. That's why it says McDonald's Retzer family on the side, but they still own like a large quantity of McDonald's in the South. And so I'm not going to get into the exact specifics on it. I don't think that's necessary, but that's kind of a shortened version. I've actually had a lot of people ask me about that. And it's kind of a hard one to answer. I don't want to just say, oh, well, it's family, that's how I got it, because it is kind of, but like there's been a lot of nurturing, a lot of, building that's gone involved in that, gotten that to where it's at, just like all the sponsors, how that is, Matt. I mean, it's a ton of work.
I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but you do have a really cool opportunity. You got Lake Murray in between it, but then, I mean, you got to be jacked up for Red Crest that's coming to Guntersville in April. I think, now just hear me out here. I think this is a perfect opportunity for a one-off Red Crest McRib wrap.
Ooh. Like a specialty item.
Just a specialty, like a one-off just for Red Crest McRib wrap. Now, there's a number of different ways you could do that, but I mean, you could still have your other logos on top of it, but the base wrap is the McRib.
The whole boat is a McRib.
It is a McRib wrap.
Oh my gosh, dude, that would be so
just
cool.
saying, just like I said, not tell you how to do
it. I thought you were saying like a McRib wrap, like take the McRib and make it into like a wrap. Like
no. On the boat, like a McRib boat wrap.
Now I get it.
Whether that's a lot of little McRibs on the wrap, whether it's one giant McRib, whether it involves carpet decal, like I'm just saying. And then for every Red Crest from here on out, you could go, like the quarter pounder with cheese wrap. You could go the Big Mac wrap, and it's just a one-off. It's just for those 3-4 days.
Imagine you wrap the motor like a fry box, and then the power poles look like fries.
I'm just saying. There's
a lot of possibilities here, man.
Yeah, I actually fished, like I said, I fished a tournament this past weekend, and there was a dude who had one of the old G2s that looks like a fry box, and it was red. I mean, dude, all you had to do was put the yellow. Now, granted, you got a 50% chance of not making it in the tournament, but you got a cool looking rig.
I mean, you get a lot of coverage just because you got a cool boat. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get towed in. You might have to fish next to the ramp, but.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, I'm super excited about Red Crest. Grimace wrap. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's talk Red. That was an odd transition into Red Crest, but
no, it's
you
cool.
You gotta be ridiculously pumped for that. There's a number of guys I think that are licking their chops at that. You're one of them.
I think it'd be hilarious if you did like the carbon decals as like a pickle or like a little bit of like you could do the sauce splatter like as the carpet decal.
There's so many options.
Oh, geez, dude. You could oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I've had other ideas for boat wraps. We're not going to go there, but. Oh, gosh.
Let's talk Guntersville then.
Yeah. Red Crest, man. Now
it's going to be hard to focus on Murray knowing that you've got, what is it, the 300K and Red Crest with the Expo on it. You just talked about kind of how you ended up at Guntersville. Is this like, oh my gosh, maybe this is all leading up to it all making sense?
Yeah, I mean, this year is crazy, Matt. I'll be honest with you. So, like, between Red Crest and I qualified for the Ultimate Angler Championship at Conroe too. So that event and Red Crest combined are just on the table right there alone, or $800,000 between those two events. And I'm also fishing a Toyota Series in May, and then back to back with a BFL in May. That's another opportunity to get some money on Guntersville. So it's like 850, 60, 70,000, roughly, between $750,000 and $1 million and $1 million on the table for me on Guntersville this year. So that's pretty crazy to wrap my head around. But honestly, as much of a pump and as excited as I am for Red Crest, I'm very much right now living in the moment. I'm just kind of like day to day, just like getting stuff prepped, getting stuff ready, focusing on just like the little stuff in front of me. The one thing that I told myself all year this year that's kind of helped me, that I think I'm going to continue to run with, is just trust the process. I know it's a very simple phrase, but like, man, it means so much if you really dive into it and think about it. Because it's like it could go for anything, trust the process of like at the house getting prepared for the tournament. Trust the process of on the water practicing. Like, if you put together a process or what you think is the proper way of doing things, and you just trust that and are patient with it, man, it's been so effective for me. Like, I'm just trusting my practice process, like being able to go out there and have a plan and execute it. That's part of that. The pre-tournament process, getting everything ready, getting my boat dialed in, getting my gear dialed in, that's part of my process. But yeah, I mean, I'm super pumped for Red Crest, but man, I'm just one day at a time. I know it sounds really like it's not the answer you want to hear. You want to be like, yeah, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. But no, just like one day at a time. I'm going to go to Murray. I'm going to try to execute a really, really good practice. I think ultimately a really good tournament. That's something that I lacked in the past was thinking about it like practice is as important as the tournament. But it really is. You've got to. I mean, practice is exactly what it says. It's practice. If you don't take your time in practice to go knock out all the kinks and all the, try to figure it all out, you get out there in the tournament. Let me take back what I said. You don't need to figure it all out. You just need to figure out. I don't know. It's hard. There's a lot to it, but you got to find the fish. But ultimately, my point is like you've got to be efficient. That's got to be your goal, is find the fish. And if that's not your number one goal during practice, and you're just going out there just to take it as an opportunity to go flip down the bank and because you want to get a few bites, like if you're using practice as an opportunity just to go fishing, you're looking at it the wrong way. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
What I've noticed over the last 3 years is identifying, and this is regardless of what tour, this is through Fish in the Opens with slightly above average results. Just throw that caveat in there. Or covering the Elite Series or the BPT or the Invitationals. Over the last 3 years, it seems like the anglers who have been the most consistent, have won the most, have been able to identify the most productive section of the lake. Now, before that, I mean, I started covering this stuff when you were mentioning 2007, 2008. There were a lot of wins, it seemed, where guys would be one-offs and they would have one stretch that they could milk, or they'd make a run and it would be in a dead zone where they found a little group of fish. But with the technology now, with the way that tournaments are fished, I think it is apparent that the guys who are having success, like I said, are able to quickly identify the most productive section of the lake. Is that what you're kind of trying to say?
Yeah. Trying to find those populations of bass.
Yep.
So like, instead of just going down the bank and being like, hey, I got a bite flipping down the side of this laydown right here, let me drop a waypoint. That's so small-minded. It's so small-minded in fishing. Like, in my opinion, like that waypoint is so irrelevant, in my opinion, to like the overall like process of what you need to accomplish. I know I'm not trying to degrade anybody's process. I'm just giving you my opinion. I think that waypoint's irrelevant. Like, you take that bite and you take that and put it in your mind and you like hold that as a piece of the puzzle. But like, I'm never going to go flip that tree again unless it's something that I pitched in there and got bit and then flipped in there again and got bit. Like, obviously there's standout situations, but like for the majority of the time, like if you're just going down the bank, marking a couple bites here, marking a couple bites there, I think you're personally, in my opinion, going about it the wrong way. I think ultimately, like, you need to look at the larger picture. You need to look at the whole lake. You need to look at like, and it can be intimidating. And that was maybe part of the reason why earlier on in my career, I didn't have this confidence to do these things. But now, I mean, I realize that, hey, you got to look at the whole lake. You got to look at the main creeks. You got to look at which ones have the biggest volume of water. These are all factors that go into finding the largest population of fish. Like, you have to be aware of the entirety of the ecosystem, not just like, hey, there's a laydown right here that I got to bite on. Like, it's so small-minded, instead of like grasping the whole body of water and going, hey, this is the major creek arm. This is the one that has the most volume of water. This is the one that looks like it's got the largest feeder, river or creek. Odds are this is going to have the most life in it. Like, I'm just using a process of elimination rather than like just putting my trolling motor down and trying to get a bite. It's more like breaking down that overall volume of water, putting yourself in the right place first before you even put the boat in the water. Like putting your mind, like before I put the boat in the water, I do minimal research, but I do enough research to find what I think are key elements to like the body of water. So like if I'm going to go on Google, I'll go, Lake Murray, we're going there in March. I'll go March bass fishing, and I'll just quickly scroll through Google and look at some of the stuff. And I may pull out a couple little tidbits of info. I may not gain anything, but that's kind of how I do my research. Pretty basic. I think the number one thing that I do is map study. I look at a map and I'm just looking for, patterns that I've found in the past, so seasonal. I mean, I don't need to dive into this. This is all so you've heard guys talk about.
No, you
stuff.
can. I would like you to dive into it. That's the
okay.
That's the beauty of a podcast.
Yeah, so I'm looking for like seasonal patterns. I'm looking for congruency is the best way to put it. So like if I've found something in the past on a lake and I realized that there was a lot of a large quantity of bass doing this type of thing, or this one specific thing, then when I get to another body of water and I see those similar situations, I mean, it's just putting it's congruency. It's just finding the congruency between one situation and another, and trying to look at it in larger scale than just, hey, let me mark a few bites going down the bank, or let me mark a bite as I fish this point. It's more of like an understanding of the topography and the movements of the bass. I know it sounds crazy, but now that we have that technology of forward facing, it's only snapshots of what's in front of your trolling motor. It's not showing you exactly the entirety of the body of water or everywhere underneath your boat. Obviously, guys are going to tell me, well, if you put this transducer here or this one here, you can see more. Okay, great. But my point is like when you drop the trolling motor and you start looking around and you're fishing, you're looking at little sections. So you've got to know where to look. Like that doesn't necessarily cover that much water. So, you're using that tool constantly throughout practice. I call it guess and check. You're guessing, you're trying, you're going over there, you're checking. You're dropping your power pull move, looking out with your active target, you're checking. And if you need a rod to check to see if they're bass, you grab a rod and you check to see if they're bass. Utilizing that technology to the best of my ability, trying to guess and check. And then obviously, if there's certain times of the year where that technology isn't as much of a player, maybe they're all pushing up tight, and like you can use it, you can find your little nuances to use it. But, just really trying to understand the nuances of the large populations of bass on these bodies of water. Because ultimately, like all the places that we go, or the majority of the places that we go, are extremely healthy bass fisheries with lots of bass. And so it requires more than 5 or 6 or 7 bites a day. I mean, shoot, you've got to be taking 40, 50, 60, 70 bites a day, to keep up with these guys. Let's see, at Harris, I was probably taking 150 to 200 bites a day.
Oh, yeah.
If I were to guess, a lot of them are really small. I was catching probably 75 bass a day on average that were, and that's how many non-scorables I caught. They don't show that stuff on live because it doesn't carry much weight, but
you're basically catching a fish every 10 casts.
Yeah, dude, I had one period, Matt, probably on the second or third day where I went 15, 20 casts in a row where I reeled one in. Like I didn't even count because it's just like, I'm like, come on, scoreable, come on, scoreable, come on, scoreable. Just every time I hook one on a jerk bait or a trap or something, I'm like, come on, be a scoreable now. And so I didn't even really think about the numbers, but yeah, realistically probably caught at least a dozen to 15 in a row at one point throughout that event, getting bit like crazy. And that's what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to find. You're trying to stay bit, trying to stay around fish all day. And that's kind of a brief insight into how I do it. I know it's kind of scatterbrained, but hopefully viewers can kind of understand a little bit more of what it is that I'm doing.
You consider yourself a new school or old school angler? Like you have some old school elements, but then you're a little like what you went into was a little Drew Gillish. Like where do you see yourself? Like if you were to put yourself in a category?
I'd say I'm definitely more new school. I'm very up to speed with the technology. But I've got my sneaky like old school techniques, I mean, like all the stuff that I've got in my boat, like not all of it's for chucking on that screen, like me picking up that swim bait at the end of the day at Conroe and throwing that mag draft around that dock, a lot of people may think like, oh, Jacob just picked up a mag draft. It's like, oh, the big popular swim bait, everybody throws a mag draft. But it's like the little side of it they don't, a lot of people don't realize is it's like, yeah, mag draft's pretty popular. It's pretty mainstay in bass fishermen's arsenal over the last 5 or 6 years now, especially in the pre-spawn. But I grew up throwing ospreys, tournament talons, line throughs, top, like that's all the stuff that, optimums, like, dude, that's all stuff, trash fish, like you name it. I grew up throwing these things. My biggest smallmouth I ever caught came on a trash fish, like that's the stuff that I grew up doing. Like I grew up throwing swim baits. So like for me, like I understand the nuances and the placement of these baits. And that's what got me to throw that swim bait. It wasn't just random. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go. I mean, if anyone was watching, they heard me say, I think I can go catch a big one off this dock. It wasn't because I saw that fish there. It wasn't because I knew the fish was living there. It was genuinely just because I had an intuitive gut feeling that was like, it's been sunny all day. It was sunny all day yesterday. It's been cold before this. Odds are there's got to be a fish that slid up around some of these docks. And I knew that dock was isolated. I knew it was back there. It just set up in my mind, right? It made sense. I convinced myself in my mind that there was going to be a big one there. And I went and executed. And so for me, that's like totally pulling from my roots, pulling from what I learned when I was 15 years old, fishing with my buddy Colby Pearson out on Applegate Lake in Southern Oregon, like that to me is pulling those roots back into my fishing. So I have a lot of new school, definitely embrace the technology, definitely try to learn as much as I can with it, but also love pulling out that little bit of stuff that I've learned when I was younger. And I definitely have learned a lot more living here in Guntersville than I ever could have living on the West Coast. So, you got to think I've only lived out in Alabama for 6 years. So the majority of my fishing before that was out on the West Coast. So yeah, I mean, I kind of came up into tournament bass fishing as this technology's evolved. I don't necessarily love getting categorized into the scoper crew, but whatever. I mean, they're taking everybody's money, so I'm fine with it.
So like when you're on Guntersville, like just rolling around on like a Tuesday, just fishing for fun, like do you see like Randy and Laker and Jordan and Justin and Chris and Bull? Like, do you just see you're just like rolling around, just like, hey, what's up, man? Like, do you see all those guys just rolling around the lake pretty much every day?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common to see them. There's a few guys that I see more often than others.
Like who's the most? Like who out of all the pros on Guntersville spends the most time on the water fishing Guntersville? You?
Me, dude. Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Like I spend.
Nice.
I don't want to claim like I'm not trying to like.
Yeah.
I will self claim that title. I mean, I spend more time on that lake lately. I haven't been, and I don't know if that's part of the reason of like. I don't want to spend that much time out there right now. I don't want to have too much in my mind before Redcrest as far as like what I think could, based on like, oh, last week I caught him here on a trap really good, or 2 weeks ago, before the off limits or whatever it is. I don't want to skew that too much, because I kind of already have a pretty good idea. Man, you want to know another really interesting fact this year, Matt, that probably nobody realizes. I've only told a couple people this. I may put them in there for Guntersville just because there's a lot of specific stuff like hard spots and little like stumps and stuff, but I have not put a waypoint in my graph yet this year. I've been fishing off of 0 waypoints all year.
Really?
I went to Harris and I had waypoints there from previous years, and I was just like, forget it. I won't put any of them in here. And so I fished all week on Harris with no waypoints. I marked everything I found in practice and in the tournament for that event. Didn't drop a single point in there before the event. So that kind of just goes back around to fishing in the moment, and trusting the process and just going with the flow. But, yeah, man, I mean, it's just, I don't even remember where I was at before that.
Oh, we're just talking about how often and the other guys that you see. Josh confirms it. He says, I live there during the week I fish there during the week and I definitely see Jacob more than anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent a lot of time on that lake. Another one though, for sure, I can't take any credit away from him, is Andrew Nordby. Andrew's out there a ton, dude.
Yeah, but half the time he's crappie fishing.
He does fish for crappie a lot. He does.
Half the time he's crappie fishing in a straw hat.
That's a fact. No, but Laker Howell, he guides out on Guntersville still. Laker's out on the lake a lot. So Lakers out there a lot. Justin's out there. As far as top tour guys like me, Chris, Lucas, Boyd
Swindle
actually
out
fished.
there. Well, Boyd also has a garage on the lake with a boat in it that he can just walk out and drop it down in the hoist, and he's on the lake.
Yeah, and he's got a multi-car garage right there with a boat ramp too, so it doesn't take him to get in the water. Yeah, I see. Let's see who else. I've seen Fletch out there when he used to live there quite a bit. I see Jordan Lee out there a fair amount. See Swindle out there from time to time. I'll be honest, there's a few guys that I don't
Alex
see that
Davis.
often. Yeah, I see Alex from time to time. I hardly ever see Chris Lane out there. The only time I ever see Chris Lane is in the summertime. He'll be shirtless on a mat flipping. That's the only time I see Chris shirtless flipping. I swear.
That's the most Florida thing I've ever heard. You mentioned one thing that I want to bring up real quick. This used to be like that little Creepers American Trash Fish.
Yeah, that's the guy right there.
Skeet made it. I mean, I don't want to say Skeet made it. Skeet brought it to the mainstream, and then Berkeley had one that literally smelled like ammonia when you opened the package way back in the day of it. But that thing was and still is, I don't know, one of the wildest, coolest, unique soft-bodied swim baits. It kind of became popular on the in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I know the swim baiters on the West Coast, but kind of on the heels of the original Bass Tricks, kind of around that same time frame where you had the hollow belly that came out, and you mentioned some of the line throughs, and this was kind of like a combination of a hard or a soft bodied solid swim bait and that Bass Trick style bait, but with a unique profile to it. And then you just really haven't heard much about it over the last 10 years.
No, it's a unique bait, man. I don't think there's anything out there that is quite like it. You know, Berkeley imitated it with the sick fish, but the sick fish, like you said, it stunk and it was hard as a rock. The thing about the trash fish that's so key is it's made out of really soft, kind of gummy plastic, and they honestly kind of smell like, in my opinion, some kind of like candy or something, like sweet. Like I don't know, they smell pretty good. But yeah, my buddy, Colby, I grew up swim bait fishing with Colby Pearson a lot. He fishes a lot of the West Coast stuff now, very successful out on the West. And he kind of got me onto that bait, and we rig it a bunch of different ways. But originally they designed that bait around Clear Lake. And so that bait there was actually designed around Clear Lake for Clear Lake, and guys were absolutely obliterating big bags of fish on the trash fish on Clear Lake. And I don't know why you don't hear about it much anymore. I mean, I still have them in the boat and I still throw them from time to time. I really like it a lot for fishing around bedfish. It's got such a subtle, like soft body and fins, and you can hop it around a bed on that EWG hook and not have to worry about getting, accidentally snagging the fish or messing, hooking the fish or any of that stuff. And you can hop that thing around the bed and it looks like a little fish trying to feed around down there. And especially if you've got a big one on the bed, she'll get pretty fired up for that thing. But yeah, we used to throw that thing on beast hook. We used to throw open hook with like a jig head. My PB smallmouth on that bait actually came on Revenge used to make jig heads. I don't think they're around anymore. Revenge, the owner of that passed away.
They're not. I actually I had one up there. I actually took it to Mexico with me. I had a couple of the OG Revenge jig heads. Dude, those were far and away the best jig heads ever made.
They're so good. I actually had one sitting over here somewhere. Let's see. I was messing with baits.
A lot of guys, there's some very similar close nog. I know VMC came out with one that was extremely similar to it. There are a number of other companies that have it with that same. Yeah, that's it. But that hook, unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean this was the head that I was throwing on a trash fish back on the West. This is a
Scottsboro.
Yeah, I think it's actually Ignite. They make them. Yeah, but it's a lot like the Scottsboro. But that head was what I was throwing a trash fish on for a long time, and I actually used to nail weight the body of it to get it to keel a little more even with a lighter head, so it wasn't just pulling the nose. It was actually falling more like this. But yeah, the trash fish used to be legit. I don't know. I haven't thrown it a lot anymore, but
I looked at it. It's still available. Like their website looks a little funky. But I mean, you can still find them and buy them. I know at one point, someone with trash fish was like listening to BTL, and he sent like just a box of trash fish to the BTL studios, which I mean they're like $17 for 2, so that's how I.
Yeah. So
you got the purple revenge head.
Yeah, yeah, I got all kinds of tackle in this room.
How many revenge heads do you have left?
I don't know, dude. I have quite a few. Let's see. I got a peg right here that's got.
Oh my gosh, in the package still too.
Yeah, I got a few packs.
That's it.
This is a 3/8 ounce. This is the longer shank hook though. This is the XL, so this one fits like a bigger body swim bait. Kind of like, I think that's what this is the XL. You can see how far back that hook goes.
Yeah, so those kind of blew up when Bastrix introduced the 7-inch that that Derek Remitz almost won the Elite Series on way back in the day.
Yeah, I mean that's going back, but I mean those things they're super effective. I don't know why we phased out of them. I think a lot of it came, just naturally, like kind of like when the chatterbait came out, guys stopped throwing a spinnerbait as much. I think it's kind of the same thing. They just kind of phased out a little bit.
Yeah, and then it went to the harnesses with, and then you had the
mag draft,
the mag draft come through and things like that. So it's all just kind of an evolution. Like, I mean, I would definitely say like a mag draft has a better hookup than a 10-aught beast hook, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, a 10-aught beast. Like I put that on there, and I'm like, dude, I better have a big one eat this thing. It's like that thick, Dude,
you look at that, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna. This fish is gonna be dead if I hook it through the top of the head by the time this thing comes through. I mean, the gap on it's like that big. It's the most insane thing ever. I bought them all and ordered them, and they came in like back in the day, and I'm like, I don't have anything that will penetrate past the barb. Like I don't own a rod I have to buy a musky rod to drive the hook into the fish.
I know the barbs on those things are a 1/4 inch long on those 10-aught.
So, what else you got? I appreciate you for sticking around. I mean, it's already 10 a.m. So,
well, I had nothing going on today, and as long as I'm just kind of. If you have any other questions on the board or anything in your mind that you want to ask me, shoot it to me. But
what did Alan say? Part owner trash fish company lived in Slough. My Airbnb was on Clear Lake a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Slough, and he hooked me up with a bunch of free baits. Good dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's awesome, Adam. Yeah, those trash fish are originally from the west. Like I said, Clear Lake area. That's where they're. I think they, like you said, they still may be made over there. I'm pretty sure that they are.
Yeah, I know Bastrix has a new owner, really cool, really dedicated to it, coming out with a bunch of new products, working on it. So it was exciting to see them that kind of go down for a while where it was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then boom, kind of the resurgence with the Bastrix. But yeah, I talked to him about like, hey, I got some of these OGs that were like, remember you get the Bastrix and some of them would be fine, and then some you'd open up and it would just be like a puddle in the
they were like sticky and gummy.
Yeah, and it was like a change in the plastic compound from when they got it. And anyway, I remember. You're too young for that, but I remember going to the Forestwood Cup back in 2007, 2008, and Bastrix had a booth there.
I was there.
It was like chaos.
I was there, dude. I went to the 2008. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Cup. Yeah, I went to that exact cup when Bennett won on Murray.
Yeah, remember Bastrix had a booth there.
Yeah, I was at that one. That would have been the first cup I ever went to.
Yeah, I think Jeffries paid me like $500 to go, and I think I spent like $700 on Bastrix. Like I was far and away in the negative on that tournament. Like I didn't know anything about like per diem, travel expenses, daily, nothing. He's like, dude, I got this 22-year-old kid that just wants to go cover fishing.
Oh my gosh. And you're like, dude, I'll take all that money and some that I don't have. Buy some swim bait.
I bought a sterling silver thumb ring that was like a couple $100, and it was like a jumping bass. So like one side of it was like I could go pick it up here. Then nice. The back side of it was the tail, and I wore it all the time and it always got in the way, got line caught, but Skeet wore a thumb ring back then. So I was all about that until then, like, I guess, like, if that gets caught, like, you're pretty much done with your whole hand. So then I stopped wearing a thumb ring. But
Oh,
I mean,
shoot.
I still have it. It's starting to get like it's a sterling silver jumping bass thumb ring. I mean, I was probably $1,500 in on that and had maybe $1,700 to my name, even after Jeffrey's paid me for the weekend.
Oh yeah, I've been there, done that too. I mean, who hasn't? I mean, that's just part of your younger years.
Yeah. What's the most that you think you've ever spent on a specific bait? Like you look back and you're like, dude, I spent way too much on that one bait.
Oh, you want me to do this? You want me to do this, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
You want to see it?
Oh, is it a KGB?
No.
A phony frog?
These are Hinkles.
Oh, Hinkles. You've got the actual Hinkles.
These are 2 Hinkle shads. These are the most expensive baits that I own. So these are, I mean, $500 to $1,000 a pop online right now. If I were to sell them, you know, and I've caught bass on both of them. I've caught a 6.5 last year on this on Gunnersville. Caught them. I've caught some up to 5.5 on this. I caught them on headwaters actually on this one time when I was down there in Florida. On that Hinkle. But no, those are the most expensive baits I have. I'm kind of a big bait junkie. I've got quite a few big swim baits, you know, but that one is a high dollar one. I've got a KGB King, which the King is like $500 also, I think. But yeah, those are definitely the most spendy baits I've got. But I'm a man, I've ever since the beginning I've been kind of a mega bass junkie. So I've got a lot of mega bass, you know, jerk baits, you know, a box full of those. It's worth who knows how much, you know, and that's something that I've always kind of been into.
And that's like pay full price for those, like $24 a pop.
Yeah.
Or whatever discount you get from a tackle retailer. You know, they give discounts to BPT guys, Elite Series guys, you get a percentage off, but there's still a lot of money that's coming out of your pot. It's not like you're calling up Mega Bass and they're just under the table sending you 150 110s.
No, that's all out of my pocket, and that's how the swim baits are too. And you know, KGB was nice enough after my Gunnersville second place that I had a couple years ago. They saw me throwing their glide on that, and they actually they reached out, and I actually got a couple baits from them. But the majority of all the KGB stuff that I own, I paid for, you know, from secondary market, you know, from another guy or something. And I don't know. I love it, man. I love all the big baits. I enjoy the collecting of it. I'm trying to find. I've got more stuff floating around in here. I might as well show you guys a few more baits.
Yeah, 100%. Will those big baits come into play this year at any point with just the one period? Like I know that was kind of the hope of MLF was to bring some more stuff back in. But I mean, do you think there will be events where had it been scoping for 3 periods, you never would have touched it, but now you're going to have some of this more one-off stuff on your front deck?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I had that mag draft out that day, you know, late in the day. That was part of the reason why I pulled it out. And yeah, I'm definitely going to continue to integrate it. It's just who I am as an angler and what I've always kind of done. And it's something that's been in my arsenal. And I think if I try to eliminate it, it's just killing a part of me as an angler, you know, and I need to keep that. Yeah. I need to keep that part of me. But I'm
keep
holding
going, show all the goods.
Okay, so this one I'm going to show you really quick. This is actually one I'm super excited about. This is kind of a cool little segue here. I didn't expect to do this, but this is a bait. I'm not going to show you guys exactly the whole thing yet, but this is a bait that I have been designing and working on with Duckett for, gosh, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prototypes over there. I mean, I've got a bunch of prototypes and I've tried different ones, different weightings, you know, all that kind of stuff, different hook hangers, and it's a glide bait that I've been working on. And I'm super happy with it, man. I'll just show you guys really quick. You guys can look at it. It's got a shad, kind of slick shad profile to it. This is not a final color. This is kind of one that we were prototyping, but it's got like a brush style tail. Yeah. It's got swiveling hangers on it, which I wanted to have on here. We're going to have BKK treble hooks on it. So it's going to come with good treble hooks. It's a good, you know, it's ABS, so it's not resin, it's not wood, it's ABS, so it's injected. So if you smoke this thing on a dock, it's going to blow up on you, it's going to break. But just don't go do that. I mean, resin's definitely stronger, but this bait is, as far as the chopping, like snapping action that you can put on a bait, this is, in my opinion, the best mass-produced bait you can get to chop. Like, the Spro KGB, the plastic ABS version of it, I wasn't a huge fan of the action that I got out of it. I felt like it was a little bit Like,
it's not choppy, but it swims like badass.
It swims good, but I think it's good. I just think that I don't know. I didn't like the regular
like jerk bait, like the action between a rogue and a +1. There's times you want it choo choo choo, and there's times you want a little more muted slow roll. Something like
I'm
that.
sure it's good. I mean, I've caught fish on the Spro. I've thrown the Spro. I know it's good, but I just like the traditional KGB. I like the way that the resin swims better than the ABS. But
the Spro will blow up if you dead center it on a dock post too. I found that. But you know what? Unfortunately, I haven't found a 2-ounce or heavier glide bait that does really well when you dead center it on a post, regardless of what it's made out of, to be quite honest.
No, they're not good at that. They're really not good at that at all. So yeah, don't hit them on docks is essentially what Matt and I are trying to say.
So here's the main key, Jacob. I mean, right now the BD glide that's on the website, they're wholesaling that at $9.99. Is this take the place of the current BD glide that's out there?
No. So we are currently kind of what I'm associating my name with Duckett is stuff that I have put my heart and my soul and stuff that I've put time into designing. The BD glide and the other baits that they have on their website, I'm not sure who designed that stuff. I'm not sure who came up with these ideas. I don't know who put these on market, but I don't want to bash a company that's been awesome to me, and I'm not going to.
No, I hear you. I was just giving you.
But I'm a realist, and these people that I work with, they realize that, and they know that. And they know who they're getting on their team.
Haven't you done a minnow deal with them? Like, don't you have
Yeah.
your own?
Yep. So the Sway minnow.
Yeah, show that. That's like the only minnow that I don't own. I'm like $5,000 in on. I went to Japan and brought back like 700 pounds of minnows in a suitcase from everything. Do you have any of those minnows in the shop right there?
Yeah. So actually, this is hanging on my wall. This is prototype stuff. This is when we were designing the bait, but this is the packaging for it. These are prototypes of the Sway minnow as well. I'm just keeping them in here, but these have actually caught quite a few big fish. These ones that are in here. But yeah, we worked on that thing for a long time. Those are prototypes in that bag right there. You can see they're a little different shape on the head of it there, but the Sway minnow is extremely good, and we just released a 3.75 inch, and in my opinion, that 3 3/4 inch is. I did first off originally designed this 4.5, thinking this was it. I was like, oh, this is the one. And then when we got the 3 3/4, and I got some in my hands, and I started looking at them in the water, I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, maybe this is the highlight of the line. It's incredibly good at rolling, that little 3 3/4 inch one. We came out with a 2/0 hook for it, and the 3 3/4 inch. That combo with that Sway head with that little smaller bait, not the 4.5. I mean, it still rolls good on the 4.5. It still works really good, but I'm just saying that new one, that 3 3/4 inch, is incredible. Like, it is so good at doing what it's supposed to do, and it gets bit really well. Like, I've got a lot of them on that little tiny one. But yeah, that Sway system's really good. But basically, my point is this right here is going to be in a totally different caliber.
Cool. Do you know what the retail is at? $50, $60, $70 bait?
Yeah, in that range. I'm not sure what we've landed on yet. I'll probably know here shortly before we release the bait. But
slow sink.
Yeah, real nice slow sink, chopping action, swiveling hangers, brush tail. ABS plastics, going to come in like 4 to 5 different colors. I'm not exactly sure what we've landed on yet, but that's a really cool one. And that all stems from me trying all kinds of baits. I mean, dude, I've got these sitting in front of me, but I've got all kinds of weird stuff. Like, what the heck is this? Like, it's got like grooves down the. I don't even know what this. Look at that weird.
That
thing.
looks like. Whoa! Let me see the top.
Look at the grooves on that thing. Like,
yeah, that's like a little bit of a mix between a negotiator and a Stormarashi.
Yeah, who makes?
Doesn't that look like if they had a baby, that's what it would kind of look like?
Yeah, it does. A negotiator and a Rashi. I agree. Absolutely. And
look at that pin in the top is very unique too.
It's got a screw so you can actually unscrew the joint, but it's called a Grand Edge. I don't know if that's the company, but man, I've got that thing.
Have you drawn that before, or is that just one that just kind of?
I've thrown it a couple times just to see what it looks like. Yeah, I mean, it swims good. You know, I'm big into the KGB stuff, so there's like my that's a legend. I've
So
got
when I had him on the show, you would like this. So I got his number, and Sid at Spro, he goes, "Hey, when you call him, you need to like let him know right off the bat that you're not trying to buy any baits." And so I call him, and he goes, "Hello," and I said, "My name is Matt, and I'm with Bass Talk Live, and I don't want to buy anything. Don't hang up." And he goes, "Okay." And this was like right during the peak of it. And he's like, "Dude, you have no idea." He's like, "My phone never stops ringing, and everybody thinks if they can get to me," because that was back when KGB, they would do the drops, and he would spread it around to where you would know like 2 seconds before that drop happened, and you had to have all your stuff inputted on the KGB website, and he would be like, "I dropped them," and 2 seconds later they'd be sold out, but you didn't know if it'd be 2 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., whenever it was. And then everybody would be around, and everyone would have their network, and if you weren't the one that saw it, by the time your buddy called you and you got to the internet and got it on, they'd be gone.
Oh yeah,
that was a wild American success story. And then the collab with Spro, and they're selling a bunch of those. Like that was wild to take a $250 handmade bait like that and what he's done with it.
Yeah. So Kevin Brightwell, I actually, when I was on the West Coast growing up, when I was like 15, 16, like when Swimbait Universe and Swimbait Underground like first came around, like they were just forums. They weren't Facebook pages, and they weren't what they are now. And Kevin was one of the guys that would post on those forums quite a bit. And I remember watching him build baits when I was 15, 16, seeing his stuff, seeing him sell stuff, seeing people buy his stuff. And, he never had like the greatest following. Like he'd post stuff, and some people would catch on and buy a little bit of it. And, somebody else would buy something, and you'd see some of it getting traded and sold back and forth on there. But it was crazy. What was it? Probably 3 or 4 years ago, like that boom for the KGBs, like you were talking about. I'm happy to see that for him, because I know that he put a lot of time and energy and money into building baits, and he has for a long time. Like, I don't know if people realize that he's been building baits. Let's see, if that was when I was 15, I mean, he's been doing it for like 15 plus years, 17 years, 18 years. So, I mean, he's put a ton of time into it and continued to do it. And, I'm happy for him that he's found success and made some money off of, some pretty good money, I'm assuming, off of it. That's good, man. I mean, he's put a ton of freaking work into it, and he makes really good baits. I mean, the stuff that he's producing now is phenomenal. It's really good stuff.
So you're 30 now, right? So were you too young to be influenced by the DVD and cassette tape drop of the Big Bait Posse out on the West Coast, or is that like?
No, that was a big deal. So like I watched that.
I can't play it with audio because I'll get copyright strike. But so like I just am curious with you out on the West Coast, and then talking about that, I was like, this was kind of like the OG.
Yeah, Matt Newman, man.
Like the OG video. Like this is like the video.
Yes, sir. I know Matt. I know all these guys.
Is this what kind of got you into the big baits, like stuff like this?
Heck yeah. It was like the cool thing to do, man. It was like skateboarding, It was like, you know what I mean? It was like the hot thing to do. It was like, it was, I don't know. It's just like, if you were the guy throwing the swim bait on the lake, you're kind of a badass, like.
And this is also like punk and rock music. Like this was, and this was way back in the day.
Dude, but these guys are legit. Like all these guys are legit. Like they are good and they're dialed in, and that's the thing.
Bailey's in there. I think Velvet's in there. Ike, all sorts of guys. But look at. I mean, that's before big baits were big baits. I mean, that's back when it was just West Coast.
Yep. Another one that I watched a ton of was Southern Trout Eaters with what's his name, Matt. That put that on. Gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah, and they went to like the White River and caught browns, and they're the ones that kind of brought the big giant baits where they're like, oh my God, they'll eat them everywhere.
In Georgia, they were doing it in Georgia in those highland reservoirs in Georgia, and catching those big trout eaters out there. There's actually a few lakes. I won't name the lake that I went to, but I went to one when I was fishing a college national championship, and This is my buddy that I fished with, and we caught like an 8.5 that day on a MS Slammer. Do you know what the MS Slammer is?
Absolutely. That's what Rambanis learned how to throw swim baits with.
Dude, the MS Slammer, you want to know what my buddy Colby and I used to call a 7-inch one? We used to call it the Cinco of swim baits. That would blow your mind that a 7-inch wake bait made out of basically a broom handle would be deemed the Cinco of swim baits. But that thing is a bite getter, and I don't throw it hardly at all anymore. But yeah, the MS Slammer, it's about the oldest, clunkiest, goofiest looking swim bait, but it freaking works. I've actually here, you know what? Since we're just running with it today, man, I'm enjoying it. I've got this here. This is actually the bait, dude. Like this is her.
Nice.
Like, look at that. Like, this is, I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that I'm the real deal, but dude, like,
look at the hook, look at the rash on that. So I had a listener that sent me this, which is,
oh, there you go.
Very, I mean,
yeah. It's clunky looking though. Like, it's got a big,
it doesn't feel sexy.
No, and the joint's all sloppy,
Dude,
but that's part of the magic. Is that
all your hook rash on that? Like, you lobbed that thing for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, this was brand new when I got it, dude. So this bait here was built in December of 2013. So every MS Slammer on it is going to have a date on the inside of the joint. This one was built in 13. So this bait is 18 years old. What is that? No, 17 years old.
Wow.
No. What? I can't math. 12 13? Years old. What am I doing 23? Here? I'm like not mathing properly. Yeah, 12 years old. So 12-year-old bait. But yeah, dude, the MS Slammer is a good one. The old swim baits. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's fun. That's something that I really enjoy.
Let me ask you this: I'm experimenting with this. I'm not a big line 3 swim bait guy. I've got a bunch of them. I like the Spro. I've got them all. But one of the things that I've been experimenting with is the 4-hook.
Okay. Oh, the quad hook. Yeah.
The quad hook.
Like
not the one that rotates, but the one where, like, when you put it into the belly,
you've got 2 of them. Yeah.
Have you
3 of them.
Yeah, 3 of them. Have you ever messed with that at all? I know a lot of the guys who throw the negotiators, a lot of those wooden baits that draw a lot of strikes, but not a lot of eats, like to throw the quads. Have you ever messed with that on the harness baits at all? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably a good look. I think it's probably a good play because anytime you can have more points, like a lot of times the fish on these big baits, they don't, they're not coming up with their mouth fully open, trying to like eat the whole thing, especially on a hard bait, and soft baits too. But I mean, especially on a hard bait, like glides and stuff, like you were saying, like the negotiator or whatever. But a lot of times they'll come up and just like hit it. Like I've watched them come up and literally just suck in the hook before or hit the hook. And so anytime you can have a little bit of extra grab on there, I've seen a number of guys. I think Matty Wong might use that quad hook.
Yeah, Polinick uses it.
Polinick.
Did you see Zaldane is bringing back the negotiator?
I didn't see that.
The sponsor deal, but like he's been posting about it. He's been throwing it. He's threw it at some tournaments last year, but like he posted a thing like tackle prep. He had like some of the blue alumni and the Wagas, Saadi, like all the hard to find ones, like the foiled ones. He had like a picture of like 14 of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like with him, like it was cool to see him bring it back. Cause to me, like that's the first, like I remember I saved up and, it's like one of the only things I've ever bought off eBay. I traded Grant Goldbeck for one, to get a couple negotiators, and then I fished the opens in 2015. I kid you not, Jacob, I probably threw a negotiator for 75% of the opens and finished like 100th some. Like I was like, it's gonna happen. Like, I'm not here for limits, I'm here to freaking top 10, and I was also there for 130th place finishes.
Well, you were there. I mean, you were trying. Dude,
yeah, no, I remember. I caught fish on it, and I was throwing it on like Ross Barnett and Fort Gibb, like places where you shouldn't really be throwing a negotiator.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that's super cool. I think this is fun. I enjoy talking about these old dates because Mike Shaw, I'm just gonna go back to the slammer. Mike Shaw, the one who builds these things, like He actually, whoever, I mean, these are all little things that I think need to be brought up more in our industry. Like, we're so focused on like what's happening right this second. There's a lot of old history that's fun. Like, man, this bait, this originally was designed as a trolling bait for lake trout. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I thought it was a striper bait.
Striper bait, but Mike Shaw designs these for trolling with a downrigger with this in like crazy deep water for giant lake trout. Like, if you go on Mike Shaw's page, or if you search Mike Shaw MS Slammer lake trout or something, it's pretty cool, man. The history behind all this stuff's pretty cool. Yeah, this is actually pretty crazy. Like this slammer here, you can see this giant chunk of wood off the front of it here where it's like chunked out. I remember the day I did that, I was like, man, I hope that doesn't break this thing, and it just kept on freaking going. Like, they are
can you put like stuff in there to fix that, like filler and stuff? Or?
Yeah, you could. Like, I actually have an old wood lunker punker that I resealed and repainted, and because it was all wood and it was all exposed, and if it stays like that and you keep throwing it, it'll just eventually absorb water and ruin it.
I was with Rumbanis. You guys don't fish anywhere in Oklahoma, right? This year, you're good.
No, we don't.
So I was with Rumbanis on Grand back in the fish and chips days, and he found it was like November, and he found like a pea gravel area that had big gizzards up there.
Okay.
And he started catching them on a big plunker, like
nice,
like something that you shouldn't be throwing on Grand, like looked like a musky lure, right? But he would fire that thing out on braid and just shoo, and that thing, 8 foot, shoo.
Yeah,
and then catching 4s and 5s. And we get into the tournament and fish and chips, and he had one of them, and he fires it up there. And he goes, shoom, and the thing glides to the left, and like a 6-pounder comes up and just eats it. And he goes to set the hook, whiffs on it, completely just breaks it off, like on the hook set.
Oh, no.
And we were done. Like, neither of us had anything that replicated that big OG wood plunker. And they wouldn't like explode on it. They would like come up behind it and eat it. Like, they thought they were inhaling a gizzard shad.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, I just remember he just went, oh no. And it was gone.
Freddie's awesome, dude. I love Fred. I've gotten to know Fred pretty good over the few years of competing against him, and he's a good guy, man. He's always picking my brain about swim baits. We're always shooting stuff back and forth about swim baits. He loves that stuff. He loves those big baits, man.
Yeah. One more thing, and then I will let you go. But that's
no problem.
Big Bass Posse video. Dude, look at those old school sweatshirts and shirts, or what, the True Tungsten Fish Harder blue shirt and the Zipper Worms hoodie.
Dude, it's OG as it gets. I mean, True Tungsten. You know what? We're gonna bring it back, Matt. We're
tungsten trout or the bluegill?
I got the bluegill, bro.
Nice.
Look at that. That's a true tungsten right
Have
there.
you lost the tungsten beads, or are they still in the bluegill? Oh, they're still in the bluegill. We have the tungsten bluegill with the beads.
Dude, it's still in there. But look, you could like pull this pin out. I don't know if I can get that out of there or not. I actually have 2 of these things.
Yeah, you should. If you can get that out without pliers, that's highly impressive.
Well, that's the problem with this bait. That's why this bait used to be so bad. It's because that pin would fall out and you'd lose your... Whoa! Hit me in the eye.
Yeah, I don't know why they had it pull out on the bottom like that. But yeah, so there'd be like 2 or 3 little tungsten beads.
I think it's supposed to have 3, but they go in a little hole right there. This is made by that True Tungsten that was on the back of that sweatshirt you were just talking about.
Yeah,
and you slide them in there, and it's got 2 of them in there, but I think it's supposed to have 3. I probably lost the other one, but yeah, it does. That's weird that it goes in on the bottom. You're totally right. Why would they not do that from the top? But
that makes no sense.
You got to be kind of careful not to get stabbed, but then you just work that little pin back in there, and it's floating, slow sink, moderate sink, like totally adjustable with those beads. Yeah, this was kind of revolutionary at the time. And then zipper worms. I remember those. I used to catch some bass on zipper worms.
All right, we'll just keep going with it. So, do you remember? So the first one outside of that True Tungsten, I remember I went to a media event at Amistad, and that was like they gave us a trout and a bluegill.
Yeah.
But before that, these were the first quote unquote like swim baits that I got. These might be too old school even for you. Do you remember the Castaic? They would come in
hardhead.
They would come in a silver box with a little bit of foam in it, and you had the soft plastic body that glued to the hard head. They had a shad, they had a bluegill, and they had a trout.
Yeah, so I had a hardhead shad. I don't know where it is. It ended up probably getting chunked. You know, those things, that plastic, the way it connected to the head, like after a while, like it was probably great when it was brand new and lasted for a couple of years or whatever, but after a while it started to like kind of deteriorate and get kind of grimy around where it connected. But yeah, those are I'm sure some people still have some in good shape, but
they also did not run very fantastic. They did not run well, and they did not cast well.
And they really didn't catch fish that well either, to be honest with you.
I remember like throwing it in tournaments when I was younger, but I don't ever remember like
catching.
I never caught them enough where I needed to replace the replaceable body. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it was replaceable, but for no good reason.
Yeah.
No, those are cool, man. Let me here quickly before we go. I'm gonna look on my wall here. Oh, here's a crazy one, dude. I got to show this one off. This is one that people probably have no idea about. I've got a lot of swim baits up here that are. Oh, let's see. I'll set that one there. This is a crazy one from the West Coast. I actually have taken a bite on this. I never caught a fish on this, but I've taken a bite on it before. It's a big one too. It's like 7 or 8 pounder. That's a dead twitch.
Oh, I heard it. Does that sit upside down in the water?
This one floats upright, but they did make one that went upside down. This is the one that floats upright, but yeah, it's the dead twitch. It's a floating bait. It was made to be a dead sticking bait. I heard stories of guys letting this thing float on the top of the water like bank anglers. They'd launch it out there and just stand there with their rod, letting this thing just bob in the waves. And then all of a sudden one would come up and just boom, eat it. Like the craziest, weirdest technique. But
now the theory on that was obviously in that California area, you had stalker trout where the bass were getting big because of the protein on the stalker trout. Obviously, a percentage of the stalker trout didn't survive when they got shot through the tube into the lake. So this bait was spawned off of seeing dead trout floating on the surface and big giant 15 to 20 pound bass coming up and eating the dead trout. So they said, hey, we'll just freaking make one, which is why they made a version that floated like that. And then literally a version that floated upside down. And you would do nothing but cast it out there and wait for a fish to think that there was a dead stalker trout and just plow it.
Yeah.
When did you remember the bite you got on it?
Yeah. I got bit on this at a lake in Oregon called Taconich. It's a coastal lake. And we were fishing bridge trestles. So or train trestles. They were these old train trestles that go through this. They're natural lakes. All of our lakes on the Oregon coast are all natural. And so they don't fluctuate much. So they've got lily pads, they got docks, they got laydowns, they got grass, lots of different cover for them. And so that's kind of how I learned how to fish a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I was fishing there with this. I was catching them on a lunker punker really good, believe it or not. Like I had dialed them in with a punker on these bridge pilings, and we were getting like 10 to 15 bites a day on a punker. And we were catching some pretty big ones. And I was like, we had this one little place pretty dialed in. There was a couple of fish, hanging around this one spot on this piling, or around this trestle, and I went over there later on and I lined it up and I fired a cast over there. And this bait, actually, if you hit it with your rod, you can get it to walk a little bit. And so I was walking this thing next to that trestle, and I had a big one come up there and swirl on it. And I mean, the way I've got it rigged is I didn't even know how to rig it, to be honest with you. I've got 2 treble hooks on it. One of them's just looped over on the bottom, it cut off and bent, but it's ripped through where I had it hooked so many times that I can't Will
that bait ever see the water again, or is it retired?
Nah, she's hanging on the wall. I'll probably never put it on the water again. I actually glued glass eyeballs on it. I don't know if you can see that, but I glued.
Oh, that was back in the day when like the videos first came out, and it was like, here's how you do the red pipe cleaner gills, and you need to put eyeballs on it, and you need to put distressed fins on it, and all sorts of stuff. So you had everybody going to Joann's Fabrics, raiding the place so they could use a X-Acto knife and slice their swim baits up.
Here, we're just going to go down one more bait here. This one here, Matt has caught if I had to guess, this Huddleston has probably caught, I don't know, 30 or 40 bass probably on this one Huddleston. But this is what you're talking about. But what I figured out was a technique that was better. This was so long ago. This is how long I've been tweaking with tackle. But I had a red curly tail of like a grub, and I cut the edge of the curly tail off that was red, and I used Mend It to put it in here and then glue it, and it's literally like it's part of the bait now. Like, because it's, you know what I mean? Like the Mend It, like
slick.
So I melted, and it looks so much cleaner than the pipe cleaner too, in my opinion. But man, that's stuff that I was doing a long, long time ago. But this Huddleston, like, we used to head rig it with just a treble and a split ring because they eat it from the head every time.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see how many times. I mean, I can't even put a hook in there anymore. Like, it's just bad, dude. I've coated it and mended it 3 or 4 times trying to keep it
like
alive.
a ROF5 or something, isn't that what they call that?
Yep, that's an ROF5. That used to be the juice. It was an ROF5 or an ROF12. Dude, I even put the little butthole on it.
Yeah,
Look at that.
you've got it. You got some anal vent coloring there.
Oh shoot! All right, well, we're getting crazy with it now, Matt. We're getting
That's
crazy.
fantastic. I'll show you one more than that I've got because I can't leave. So that's a 3/16 5-inch bluegill. It has like a flat lead thing underneath the belly, and it was aligned through. Of all of the baits that were aligned through, I still have this one bait from all those years ago. It's actually a bluegill color that I have. This thing freaking crushes them.
Dude, it's so good. I have a buddy of mine that fishes a lot in Oregon that I grew up with, and that was his go-to. Like that bluegill color you're talking about, like he caught so many good fish on that little tiny swim bait. It's not that big. It's like 4 inches long, right? 4.5.
Hog Farmer.
5 inches.
Hog Farmer.
Oh, they still make it.
Yeah. 3/16 5-inch bluegill. It's $15.99. Yeah, it's that sunfish color right there.
Yeah, they still make it. It's still probably a good bait to throw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5-inch equipped with a 1/0 owner. But that was like, I felt like I was like doing something. It said, I think, released in the spring of 2003.
Oh, nice. Just came out.
I like had it in 2003. Like I thought I was doing something with that thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm throwing a big line through California.
Oh yeah.
Soft plastic swim bait.
Oh yeah. Here, I'll leave you with, I don't even know if I have big. Do I even have? Oh yeah, here we go. You want to see big line through? This is right here is what they call the shoe.
The shoe.
They call it the shoe.
Look
or
at
the boot.
The wall of Sakamata that just went past.
That's called the boot. So that's a 9-inch line through osprey, and I used to catch them on this thing pretty dang good on the West Coast too. But the guys actually threw a 12-inch version of one of these. It was like that long. I mean, here's a Stanley for reference.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, crazy, dude. But,
and back then, most of the guys were either throwing that stuff on like musky rods or just flipping sticks, right?
Yeah. So like actually, you know what? When I first started, Okuma made a rod called a Guide Select swimbait rod. Had a crazy, weird looking bottom handle to it. It was this weird, bulky, grippy handle on the bottom. Guide Select, Okuma Guide Select, and it came in like a heavy, extra heavy, and medium heavy. I think it was like the extra heavy and heavy that we threw a lot. My buddies and I went through a number of those. Matt, I'll tell you one more story before I go. But I remember
having fun.
One evening, dude, we were backing into the little boat storage my dad and I had. It was like this white kind of like tarped over, metal frame building. It wasn't like a standalone building. It was just something you pop up, use for the summer, and then put down type of thing. And it had these little like tarp walls. Well, we're back in this old boat in there, and it was a Bayliner bass boat. My dad still freaking has it. And that boat, the rods, it's so short, the rods hang out off the tip or the edges a little bit. Well, my freaking 8-foot swimbait rod's hanging off the edge, and my dad's backing into this thing, and all I hear is like, and I'm like, look, and I'm like, what's that sound? And I look over it, and dude, this rod is like, I mean, it is so bent up on the corner of this tarp, and I'm like, Dad, and he's still going, dude, and it just, whoop-pow! I mean, the biggest explosion you have ever heard. Imagine an
Heartbroken.
8-foot heavy action swimbait rod just kapow, dude, right in the middle of that thing. I'll never forget that. That was, yeah, those are the rods we grew up throwing, those Okuma Guide Selects. Those were the
Sam
rods.
says his mom would always take a certain way home from a horse show in North Idaho so they could hit up the Joanne Fabrics.
There you go.
Because I would also get Mark Jeffries originally from BTL. He was a big Carolina rig guy, but he would use the big colored plastic necklace beads for the dog is of BTL.
There you go, Poppy. Look,
a Welsh Corgi, correct?
Yeah, Pembroke Welsh Corgi.
But he would always stop and get the beads for his Carolina rig.
I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff that you use crafting is useful in fishing, you know?
Yeah.
But,
well, that was freaking fun, dude. I appreciate it.
yeah, man, that was kind of cool. A little stroll down memory lane, swim bait, and kind of little backstory. And
2 hour and 15-minute show. Anytime that you can start out with DQs, rules violations, a bunch of BS like that, and then end with a solid hour of fishing, actual nitty gritty fishing talk and that's a win for me. So
I love it, dude. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
All right, thanks, dude. Good luck. Murray coming up, and then obviously I'm assuming you'll have a camera in your boat. You'll be one of the favorites when Redcrest goes to Lake Gunnersville in April.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it all, and just got to keep this train rolling.
All right, see you, man.
See you, Matt. Thanks, bro.
All right, Jacob Wall, take a final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap up a very busy Tuesday in professional bass fishing. It's BTL. We'll be back right after this.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Breaks Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Breaks, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Breaks Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, wrapping things up on a Tuesday here. We got a good show for tomorrow. Today, I really enjoyed today's show. A little bit of business, a little bit of charity, a little bit of bass fishing. Get this guy on once or twice a year. Nominated for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame class of 2025. The one and only Rick Pierce returns to BTL. He's at like a Arkansas fishing symposium right now. I think. Where did he say he was? Rick. He said that he is at the Outdoor Economic Summit in Arkansas. Be interested to talk to him about that. He also fished the Opens. He's still passionate about bass fishing. He's got some strong opinions on a number of different things. And he knows the industry as well or better than anyone else we could ever possibly have on the show. Listen, if you're considering fishing the St. Jude with only 10 spots left, you have to jump on it. If you have any questions, DM me at Matt Pangrek on Instagram. The link is in the description of the bio. If you're up in the Minnesota area, stop by the Giesenbrauer Break Your PB event. Say hi to the Crappie Chronicle guys. Have a chance to win some great raffle and bid on some great items with all the proceeds going to St. Jude. If you're at the Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas area within a 3-hour radius of that, head to classiccrawfishboiled.com. You have to have your ticket purchased. You cannot purchase tickets at the door there. It's just like a way because of how the way they sell alcohol there. It's a 21 and up, but almost all the classic competitors will be there. Proceeds for that go to St. Jude and Cook's Children's Hospital. And I think that's all we got for today. 2-hour and 20-minute show. We'll see how long it lasts with Rick tomorrow. Thanks to Jacob Wall, Gretchen Simon, Adam Bartusek. Also waiting to hear back from Bass on some of the questions that I asked him, just some rules clarification. But same time, same place tomorrow. We'll talk to everyone then. See ya.